for that introduction, John. It does give me great pleasure to be here today. And I think that you've made some very good points in your introduction as well. There is always that need to strike that balance. Sometimes I feel the influence of the headmaster might be overrated, but other times I'm assured by people that's not the case. I do want to mention my Rotary credentials, and you've heard that I am a member of Rotary Club. That's just been the case for a few years, and I was very keen to have some local involvement and really enjoying my connections there. But that came about after a lengthy gestation period, because in 1988, which is quite a few years ago now, I was a member of a group study exchange team whilst living in Adelaide, and I think that we struck lucky there because we got to go to Ireland for a group study exchange visit. I think you all know about group study exchange. 5 or 6 younger people, usually professionals, and a Rotary leader. You tour around, hosted by different Rotary clubs, and you also look at your particular profession, and I found that extremely stimulating. Just the other day I actually found that my filing system does work, and I was able to locate the list of things that we did during our group study exchange visit. I'd just like to go through it because it's quite a list. During our time in Ireland, and I think it was 5 weeks or thereabouts, we visited 11 Rotary clubs. I went to 20 schools, 3 museums, 2 Houses of Parliament, 8 universities or university colleges, had 15 family dinners. We played sport 6 times, went to 2 bank head offices, went to church 5 times, 2 industry assistant boards. We met with 6 mayors. We had 1 meeting with the police. We went to the theatre twice. We experienced Rotary Fellowship on 21 occasions. We went on 6 guided tours, 5 tertiary colleges, 2 ancient sites, 4 castles, 1 day at the races, 9 countryside trips, 2 radio stations, 12 factories, 2 art galleries, 2 breweries, 2 craft studios, met with 8 politicians or senior bureaucrats, including the President, 3 government ministers and 3 other parliamentarians and the head of the civil service, attended 1 surf club opening in the west of Ireland, went to 9 sporting events, 3 boat trips, 1 newspaper, and visited 33 pubs. I think the combination of Rotary Fellowship and good Irish hospitality was potentially damaging to our health. We had a wonderful time. As you know, I am an Australian, and I found that being an Australian in New Zealand is actually a pretty good experience. And I found out what that means relatively early in my time here, and I'd like to tell you the story. At the beginning of my 2nd term, I had to meet with a Year 9 student, a first-year student, who had misbehaved, and he'd been suspended because of what he'd done wrong. And then when they come back from suspension, they have to front up the headmaster with a letter of apology, and they have to assure us that they will not do anything like that again. So I met with this young man, just the 2 of us, and he presented his apology, and he was terribly nervous, as you can imagine, and had trouble even getting any words out. And then we went through the whole thing, and I said to him, now, well, you've done that, you've been punished, but that's the end of the matter, it will not be held against you, we move on from here. And I shake him by the hand and welcome him back to the school. And I then get to the end, and I said, now, have you got anything else you want to say? And this is where often they just say one more time, yes, I'm sorry, and I won't do it again. And this boy said, well, yes, I have got something, but it's not about this. And I said, oh, well, that's all right. Whatever it is, you can ask. And this was the previous Saturday night. The Wallabies had played the All Blacks at Eden Park. And he said, I hear you were at the rugby last Saturday night, and I'd like to know which team you're supporting. And I said, well, Harry, I am an Australian. You don't change what's in there, so I support the Wallabies. But I've chosen to live in New Zealand and accept all that entails, and I sing both national anthems proudly, and I will support New Zealand on every other occasion. And he said, that's a good answer, headmaster. So I felt that I'd done well to get through that interview. And it was outlined originally from Victoria, but I've lived and worked in 4 different states in Australia and 1 territory, as well as actually having a stint teaching in Northern Ireland for you, which was a great experience. So I've actually worked out, had 9 moves either interstate within Australia, which involves a lot, as most of you would know, because there are different laws and different conditions, and you have to change licenses and all sorts of things when you move. 9 moves either interstate in Australia or overseas. So I actually found that the move here relatively easy, and I would say Adelaide to Auckland, culturally, was a pretty easy move as well. There are quite a lot of similarities. Partly Adelaide is one of the more refined Australian cities, but as well as that, similar size, and we've, as I say, we've found the transition pretty easy. This is the 7th school in which I've worked, all good independent schools, and I'd have to say that I love working in schools for all that they offer, and particularly the excitement of seeing young people growing and developing, and not just academically, but that holistic approach to education that we promote. Well, I think that all good schools promote, and goes far beyond just a simple academic pathway. How did I come to be head of King's? Well, at 50, I'd had 10 years at my previous school, and I thought that was long enough. I've seen heads who've stayed in schools for too long, and I reckon about that 10-year mark, you either move on or you reinvent yourself somehow, and that's a pretty difficult process. So I thought it was a good time for a move. I had been to King's once before for a conference and was very impressed with the school and thought it could be quite a good fit, and that's exactly what we've found since we've been here. I honestly believe that King's is one of the great independent schools of the world and compares very favourably with any others anywhere, and we've actually recently been admitted to a group called the G20, which is leading independent schools throughout the world, and it's a really good group for benchmarking. We recently had an Education Review Office inspection, which supported and was very affirming in many ways, and talked about the degree of engagement of our students, their pride in the school, and the focus on achievement, which I think is a positive feature of the school and has been throughout its history. A couple of special features. One of the things that really attracted me about King's was the emphasis on community service, and we actually employ someone full-time to coordinate our community service program, which sees around 500, just over half of our students each year undertaking significant community service work in South Auckland. And they go out during their study lessons during the day, or after school. They devote their time to go and do reading in schools, or to work at Middlemore Hospital, or the Refugee Centre, or with the intellectually handicapped. Entirely voluntary, but it's something there's a really positive attitude towards, and that impressed me even before I came here.